Hi, this is Mark Mancini from VRBO Outstanding. This is part one of our interview with Bonnie about bookkeeping. So welcome back this week. We've got Bonnie Vatovec here, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about herself and her background as a bookkeeper. Bonnie, go ahead and tell us a little bit about your experience.
Hi, yes. So I am Bonnie Vatovec. I'm the founder and CEO of BookVision Financial Solutions. We've been open for about 2 years. And in that 2-year time frame, we have helped a tremendous amount of business owners across multiple industries. But we do have a very large share of our client base operating in the real estate industry, particularly people that own short-term rentals. My background spans over 20 years in the finance, accounting, and HR industries. In addition to work experience in all of those areas, I also have a bachelor's degree with a concentration in finance, and then my master's degree has a concentration in accounting. So clients that choose to work with us get that, added benefit backing them. And we offer primarily financial accounting or managerial accounting services for our clients. And then for the tax accounting piece that they need, they typically will have a CPA or an EA or a tax professional of some sort that they work with. And we will work with them directly or through our client, our mutual client, whatever works best in that scenario. But that way, their tax accountant can help them with their tax needs, their tax planning, tax strategy, tax preparation, that kind of thing. Most people don't necessarily realize how vast the accounting industry is. And accountants are a lot like doctors, right? There's accountants that are doing certain things and not other things. And just because someone is a CPA doesn't mean they do tax preparation, right? So we choose to focus primarily on the financial and managerial accounting for our clients and leave the taxes to the tax people.
Well, that sounds awesome. And I know the first question I have to ask, because I get this a lot. What is the importance of keeping up our books? Why do we have to do it? Why do we have to keep them up to date every month and accurate? Because there's a lot of people who have short-term rentals who've never owned a business. So let's do the Reader's Digest version of why it's so important.
Absolutely. So I will start off by saying, to piggyback off of what I just said, bookkeeping is not just for taxes. Yes, you absolutely need it for being able to do your taxes correctly, but you get so much more out of having bookkeeping done throughout the year. Number one, you can make data-driven business decisions if you know the numbers for your business, right? Yep. And not just seeing what's in your bank account, because what's in your bank account isn't a true reflection of how your business is or is not performing. Another big reason why bookkeeping is so important is for you to be prepared for new opportunities and having financial data available when it's needed. You might have a property that you want to buy, but you need your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet to be able to present to a lender. If you don't have your bookkeeping done, there's no way you'll be able to provide that to them. And you might miss out on that opportunity because you don't have your books done. And then the last thing too, another big reason is if you have inaccurate books or incomplete books, you could pay more in taxes than you otherwise should. You could be making bad business decisions because you're making it off of incomplete or inaccurate information. Mm-hmm. And you could unintentionally make it so that your business doesn't grow because you're missing out on opportunities that you otherwise would possibly be able to take advantage of.
That's very important information. And I'm going to back it up with probably the next most important question that I think of this episode. And it's a two-parter, is what accounting software do you recommend or work with? And for everyone there on YouTube, you're in Pennsylvania, I'm in the Florida Keys right now. can you work on their books remotely?
Absolutely. So we service clients using QuickBooks software, either QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. We can service clients virtually across the country with either one of those. And most people say, how do you do that with desktop? Well, there is software that helps us do that, that will actually house the data file of your QuickBooks Desktop software that we will be able to share back and forth with one another. We use QuickBooks Online Accountant version or QuickBooks Desktop Accountant version. So that gives us some accessibility that you wouldn't have as a non-accountant user. So basically, those softwares allow us to share the information back and forth with our clients. So that is typically the software that we use. A lot of the times we will have newer or smaller short-term rental business owners that come to us that have been using something like Stessa or REI Hub, which are, good starting solutions, right? Especially because it's better than Excel. They're not quite as robust as QuickBooks.
It's better than a shoebox.
Better than a shoebox, yes. But they don't have the same tools and capabilities that an accountant-driven software has. So when we start working with clients, we do ask that they switch to either QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. We work with them to help figure out which one makes the most sense. And then we make our recommendations from there. We also are able to extend discounts to new subscribers for QuickBooks Online and some other discounts through our resellers link that I'm happy to share with you, Mark, so that you can pass that along. And
right below.
Yep. And typically, so the discount is usually good for the first 12 months if you're a new subscriber on QuickBooks Online. And if you need to purchase multiple QuickBooks Online subscriptions, there's also a little bit of a better discount that you can get for purchasing multiple QuickBooks Online subscriptions. So yeah, absolutely.
And to back
every
that up,
little bit helps.
I think also too, what I want to, a lot of people have more than one property. And you definitely want to have a different QuickBooks file for each property. And then some of us who have multiple properties, both short-term and long-term, sometimes even have a management company that manages all of them separately. And that's, again, another separate file. And it's important to have that. So always, I would assume you recommend talking to your CPA and make sure you're set up correctly, right? No commingling accounts, right?
Yes, absolutely. So this is a very, very hot topic with a lot of short-term rental owners that I speak to that, as you mentioned, they're learning how to run a business. They don't understand the ins and the outs. And that is probably the most common thing that we talk about and the most common misunderstood aspect of maintaining accurate and adequate books for separate business entities. Yes, absolutely. And, many people come to me and say, well, this other owner that I know does it this way, and why can't we do it that way? And I say, that's the difference between hiring someone who knows how it should be versus doing it, a convenient way that isn't necessarily in your best interest.
And what's interesting, Bonnie, is my father is a retired IRS field auditor. Now, folks at home, don't hate me for that, okay? So, but I learned early on the importance of keeping accurate and good books. So when I started my businesses back, 25 years ago, we always built on that. So now I have a question I'm going to circle back with on what you mentioned, but I want to go back to the follow-up the question. We talked about accounting software. A lot of people out there run PMS systems like OwnerRez or Guesty. Do you work with any of those, and are there benefits to that, et cetera?
Yes, we have many clients that use a property management software. I would say they're not all created equal from especially the accounting side. Some are way better than others. OwnerRez is one that I would say is one of the most robust options out there. And even with my clients that use OwnerRez, there are still some instances where we keep the property management software not connected with their QuickBooks because of whatever their unique circumstances are. And this is something that, again, we talk to our clients about. We come up with a plan that makes sense for their needs, their use case. There is a fee if you connect OwnerRez to QuickBooks, which once you scale to a certain point, that typically is, nominal. It doesn't make a huge difference. But for a new, smaller property owner or short-term rental business owner, that can add up. So it really just depends. The other thing is sometimes those integrations with these third-party systems, they sound great. And in theory, they should work perfectly, but they don't always. So,
and even to back that up too, I've been using OwnerRez for, when I say several years, I do mean 7, 8 years. Okay. And I do not integrate with QuickBooks. I keep that separate. That is for my situation. It's not a blanket statement for everyone, but I love OwnerRez. It's a great tool, but I think there's a place for the integration. And for me, it's not integrating that QuickBooks. But I want to go back to something you said before. I assume there's common mistakes people make that you see a lot. What are the most common ones you see that maybe people at home could avoid before they reach out to you and maybe clean up because, they don't want to just present you a mess?
Yeah, absolutely. So we touched on one of them already, and that is combining multiple separate legal businesses into one accounting data file. Aside from if you have an LLC or not, right? Part of having an LLC is that liability protection, that asset protection. If you have an LLC, you want to do everything in your power to run your business in accordance with protecting the purpose of that LLC. Mm-hmm. So combining multiple legal businesses that are LLCs into one data file is a very quick way to basically negate the benefits of an LLC and possibly pierce that corporate veil.
Absolutely.
So when someone comes to me and they have multiple businesses, we sit down and we look at, does it make sense to have QuickBooks Online for each individual business, or does it make sense to have QuickBooks Desktop? And in Desktop, it's one fee and you can have multiple company data files in it. So, and we look at the big picture, right? Some people opt to have multiple QBO Online subscriptions, and that's fine if that meets what their needs are and what they want. But other people say, yeah, I want to do desktop. I don't need any of the other things that online does. So it really just depends. But that is the most common. And honestly, that's like the biggest uphill battle for me as a professional bookkeeper offering the services I do, is getting people to understand the importance of keeping those different businesses totally separate. The next thing,
I can't do any more on that, by the way.
Yeah. The next thing is commingling personal finances with business finances, or one business with another business in the same bank account or on the same credit card or whatever. Again, that's another big one that we fight often, an uphill battle trying to help people, get their finances organized, get those separated completely.
And this is all stuff you do with them, right? When you consult with them.
Yeah. We advise that this is not the best setup. This is not the way that it really is in their best interest. And that's what we want. We want people to know what they should be doing and what's in their best interest. Not that it's, us trying to make things difficult for them, right? Like, this is really the way that it should be and why it should be that way. Another very common mistake to get away from commingling or combining is DIYers don't capture the full picture of money that they earned as income less fees. What we see so often is just they see a net payout from Airbnb and they just book that right to income. But that's not truly your income. That is the net payout after Airbnb takes their fees, right? And so you're missing the full payout or the full income amount. You're not capturing the fees. So that's a very common one, where, they don't realize that they should be pulling in those gross
Or in
dollars.
some people's cases, when it's paid out and Airbnb or VRBO doesn't account for all the taxes in an area, and in that payout is a portion that has to go to sales use tax that you're counting as income, and it's not income.
Yes, absolutely. That, sales tax, lodging taxes, those should be carried on your balance sheet as a liability. When collected, when paid out, it comes back out of that liability. So yeah, that's another very common one as well. And the last one that is really
There's a third most common one. Okay.
Yeah. The last one that is really common, and I feel like is probably 75% of those that aren't trained in accounting, bookkeeping, or have experience with it, is they're not doing the full bookkeeping cycle and they're not reconciling their books. And that is huge. When we look at a new client's data file and it's been in existence for years and it's never once been reconciled, it's kind of like, oh my goodness, and the reconciliation process is so crucial to making sure that the books are right.
Well, it's interesting when we used to have those old check registers, because I'm that age, right? And you used to have to check off and reconcile so you knew what we have in there, but everything's all online and people just, I hate to use the word lazy, but there's no other word. Go with the balance with what's online, and that's your balance, and not account for checks that didn't clear or payments didn't get made or something that was missed. And it could be definitely devastating to them.
And banks make mistakes. Unfortunately, I've had clients that have had their merchant processors withhold funds. Stripe is a really popular one for that, where they will start withholding funds and they don't realize that they're not getting all of their money hitting their bank account because they're not tracking
and they're putting it through, declaring it as income, and then they're not getting the money and paying taxes on it.
Right. And then they realize that, their bank account balance doesn't make sense compared to what they expected to be there. So yeah, absolutely. It's just very crucial. The reconciliation process is very crucial.
But we're going to close up on one last question. And for this, and next week, we're going to come back. We're going to ask you several more questions, mostly for year-end stuff, because that's why we have you here in January, Bonnie, because January, we think of taxes and what's coming up. But we're going to close up with this. Some people don't realize what it costs to hire a bookkeeper. Either they're afraid to ask or they don't realize the value. And I know compared to a CPA, you're not as much money. Ballpark, give us an idea of what your ranges to cost and what services you provide for those prices.
Yeah, so we are a value-based price firm. So what that means is we don't charge hourly. It makes sure that our clients know every month, like this is what the fee is going to be for the services that we are getting. So basically it helps with no surprise bills. That's a big difference with most of the time with the CPA firm. They typically are billing you hourly and you never necessarily know how many hours it's going to take. So there could be a surprise bill. So we look at every client's unique setup, their needs, what they want us to do, how involved they want us to be to come up with our value-based pricing on the services. So what I would say, every firm does it a little bit differently. I know plenty of other professional bookkeepers and bookkeeping firm owners that price differently. Some of them do hourly, some of them don't. So it just depends, right? I would say in most instances to plan for at least a couple $100s a month, depending on how many properties you have, how many bank accounts you have, how organized you are or aren't.
Or if you're a property manager or co-host versus just own one or two properties, right?
Right. So, and what's the volume of the activity in your business versus what different systems are you using? We have some clients that they're not using a property management software, but yet they are booking on 10 different platforms. So that's 10 different platforms that, we have to be looking at, things like that. So what I tell clients is, the easiest way to make your bookkeeping very expensive is to be disorganized and to have way more accounts than you need, to not be streamlining your processes, things like that. So, and to be commingling, right? Because if you're commingling, that's more that we have to double check, more that we have to look at, that kind of thing. So I always tell clients, let's try to get you more organized, get things streamlined, get you running more efficiently, and then that will therefore help with the overall cost of, you know, having someone handle this part of your business for you.
And next week on part 2, we're going to go in more detail about the different tax forms and reporting, and what you need to know about your business and what this does for you. So Bonnie, thanks for joining us this week. And remember, hit the like and subscribe button below, and we'll see you again next week on VRB Outstanding.